The coffee cup shattered against the wall of the five-star restaurant, sending fragments cascading across the marble floor like broken dreams. But Maya didn't flinch. She had stopped flinching months ago. "I asked for English," the man sneered, his Rolex catching the light as he pointed a finger at her. "Not whatever language you just butchered. You know what? Forget the coffee. Forget your job. You're done here." His laugh echoed through the dining room, cold, cruel, and utterly final. He was a millionaire, they said, a venture capitalist who had made his fortune by crushing people smaller than himself. Today, that person was Maya. If you believe in the power of kindness, second chances, and standing up for those who deserve better, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel. Let's build a community that uplifts one another. Now, let's continue. Maya had arrived in the city 3 years ago with a single suitcase, $200 in her pocket, and a dream that felt increasingly foolish with each passing day. She came from a small village in the Philippines where her mother had worked as a teacher for 30 years, earning barely enough to feed 3 children. Her siblings had stayed behind, but Maya had promised herself she would build something different. She would return with enough to change their lives forever. That promise now felt like a weight around her neck, pulling her deeper underwater with each failure. The job at Stellamont Restaurant had seemed like salvation when she first arrived. High-end establishment, international clientele, tips that could reach hundreds of dollars on a good night. Except every night felt like a collision with her own inadequacy. The head chef would switch between French and Italian. The sommelier sprinkled Spanish throughout wine descriptions. The other servers, mostly European, spoke with effortless confidence in multiple languages, switching between them like changing clothes. Maya's English was solid but accented. Her French was terrible. Everything else was worse. She had taken those positions because she had no choice, not because she could truly do them. And it showed. That morning, when the millionaire, whose name was Richard Clayton, had walked into her section, Maya's stomach had sunk. She recognized the type immediately, the kind of man who measured his worth not just in money, but in the ability to make others feel small. He had already sent back an omelet for, being too yellow, had demanded to speak to the manager about the water temperature being aggressively cold, and had criticized the presentation of his fruit plate with a specificity that revealed the criticism was never really about fruit. Then came the final moment. As Maya approached with his espresso, her nerves made her slip into a brief exchange of Spanish with the kitchen staff who had been helping her manage the order. It was just a quick phrase, a thank you, but Clayton had heard it. And something about hearing her speak another language seemed to ignite something vicious within him. "I asked for English," he had said, his voice pitched high enough for the entire restaurant to hear. "Serve me in English and I'll pay you $1,000. You probably need it more than I do, right? You illegal immigrants are always so hungry for money." He had laughed then, that laugh that made her blood freeze in her veins. She had turned away with the empty coffee cup, her hands trembling, and that's when he threw it. The manager had appeared within seconds. Maya could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. A valued customer versus an expendable waitress. She already knew how this story would end. "Take the night off, Maya," he had said quietly. "Let's talk tomorrow." They never did. An email the next morning was all that was left of her employment. No severance. No apology. No acknowledgement that she had done nothing wrong except exist in front of someone powerful who needed a target. That evening, sitting in the studio apartment she shared with 2 roommates, Maya had allowed herself to break down completely. The kind of crying that starts in your chest and doesn't stop for hours. She was 24 years old, alone in a foreign country and running out of time. Her mother had sent a message that morning. Her brother needed medicine, real medicine, not the cheap alternatives. Her sister's tuition was due in a month. The promises she had made felt like lies now, and the life she was living felt like punishment for having dreamed too big. The next morning, desperate and broken, Maya did something she had never seriously considered before. She posted on a community board that served her neighborhood. Available for language lessons. English, Tagalog, basic Spanish, and French. $25 per hour. She didn't expect anything to come from it. Why would someone pay her to teach languages when she had just been fired for not speaking them well enough? But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. Within 3 days, she had 2 students. A woman named Sarah who wanted to learn Spanish before a vacation. An elderly man named Mr. Chen who wanted to brush up on English before moving to America to be closer to his grandchildren. They were small beginnings, but they were something. Within 2 weeks, she had 5 students scattered across different times and neighborhoods. Within a month, she had 12. What began as a desperate attempt to survive became something entirely unexpected. Unlike the restaurant, where she existed to serve people who viewed her as less than human, her students actually wanted to learn from her. They looked at her accent not as a deficiency, but as an authentic window into another world. Sarah would sit on Maya's worn couch and ask her not just about Spanish grammar, but about her life in the Philippines, genuinely interested in her story. Mr. Chen would bring homemade dumplings and ask her to share recipes from her mother, bridging 2 cultures through food and language. Then came the day that changed everything. A woman named Patricia entered Maya's tiny apartment, referred by Sarah, and revealed that she was the founder of a global educational nonprofit working in 70 countries. She had been looking for someone who could help develop language training programs specifically designed for immigrant communities. She wanted someone who understood the struggle, someone who knew what it felt like to fight for every inch of progress, someone who could teach not just languages but resilience. "Your reviews from your students are incredible," Patricia had said, scrolling through her phone. "Sarah told me something interesting. She said you don't just teach languages, you teach confidence. You teach people that they don't have to apologize for their accents or their backgrounds. That's rare. That's valuable." The job Patricia offered wasn't high-paying at first. The salary was modest, barely more than what Maya was making from private lessons. But it included benefits, stability, and most importantly, purpose. Maya would develop curriculum, train other instructors, and eventually help launch a program that would serve thousands of immigrants learning languages in a new country. 6 months into the role, as Maya was facilitating a workshop for 20 newly trained instructors, her phone buzzed with a news notification. It was an article from the city's business journal. Stellamont Restaurant faces massive lawsuit over discrimination claims. Apparently, Richard Clayton had a pattern. Multiple lawsuits from staff, multiple discrimination claims, multiple settlements. The restaurant's reputation was crumbling, and Clayton himself had been quietly removed from his venture capital firm. But Maya didn't feel the satisfaction she might have expected. Instead, she felt something closer to pity. Here was a man who had everything: money, power, influence, and he had used it only to diminish others. Meanwhile, she had nothing but her dignity when she started. And somehow, she had managed to grow something real from that single foundation. 2 years later, Maya stood in front of an auditorium of 500 people at a nonprofit gala, receiving an award for educational innovation. Her mother sat in the front row, and her siblings were there too, having come to the city to witness what their sacrifice had built. She had enough money now to cover her mother's medical bills indefinitely, to put her siblings through college, and to live with genuine security for the first time in her adult life. As she held that award, Maya thought about that moment in the restaurant, about the broken coffee cup and the crushing words, and the way her entire world had seemed to collapse. She thought about how close she had come to giving up. She thought about the difference that kindness, just simple human kindness from people like Sarah and Mr. Chen and Patricia, had made in her life. Readers, if this story has touched your heart, if it has reminded you of the power of resilience and kindness, I'm asking you to engage with this video. Like it, comment below, share it with someone who needs to believe that their struggles don't define their worth. Subscribe so we can continue bringing you stories that matter, stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Before we end, I want to see something from you. Please comment one word that describes how this story made you feel. Just one word. Inspired, hopeful, determined, moved. I want to read what this story awakened in each of you. Because that's how we build community. By showing up, by witnessing each other's feelings, and by knowing that we're never truly alone in this journey. The last thing Maya learned was perhaps the most important: that our value was never determined by the words of people who used their power to diminish us. It was determined by what we built when they were done trying to break us. And sometimes, all it took was for one person to see us clearly, to treat us with genuine respect, and suddenly the whole world shifted. That's the story of Maya, and perhaps it could be your story too.